Nick, a lot of talk about this Reds offseason and all of the moves that they have made. Obviously, a number of moves that excite and motivate Reds fans. You talk about adding guys like Austin Hayes and Brady Singer and many others. But let's take a look at this 2025 offseason, and I want to talk about what you think is the Reds' best offseason move so far.
Well, I'm going to hedge. I'm going to say there's two, just because they're so different, and I like them the most. The best move to me is probably in itself is Nick Martinez, and I know that's not as fun as going with one of the guys the Reds added that weren't on the roster last year, but Nick Martinez was a 3.5 win player, threw 140 innings last year for the Reds. I just think that retaining him was so valuable for this team just because of his flexibility, his ability to help protect the rotation and the bullpen, depending on where the biggest need is. So again, I think that it's kind of gotten forgot about, but there was a big commitment to Nick Martinez. I mean, $22 million is not nothing. Now, when you look at the other pitching contracts, you look at Frankie Montas getting $17 million over 2 years. I think you should be a lot more excited and feel a lot better about the investment in Nick Martinez. But I think that one is really gone under the radar a little bit just because he was on the Reds last year. But I think bringing him back is just so much bigger than a lot of the other moves. The other one for me, and a lot of the players that the Reds added, like Rogers, he no question raises the Reds' floor. He's a proven reliever, filling a big need for the Reds. We talked just right before the move about how the Red season went off the rails. It's because the bullpen just was a complete dumpster fire. Rogers is going to hopefully help prevent that. Trevino, he's going to fill a spot in the Reds catching that's going to completely raise the floor of that. Austin Hayes, I like the Austin Hayes moves a lot. I think he fills a massive need. The bat against left-handed pitching that I think the Reds really, really needed. But I don't see Austin Hayes being an all-star. I would love to be wrong. Man, I'd love to have that clipped up. But I don't see Austin Hayes being an all-star. I don't see him putting up 3 wins or anything like that. I think he's just going to really fill a need. There's one guy, though, that the Reds added that, to me, has the potential. And it's potential. It's that nasty word that people hate. Has the potential to be a legitimate all-star, and that's Gavin Lux. This guy was a number 2 ranked prospect in the sport when he debuted, had one of the best seasons in baseball in the second half last year. Last 60 games of the year was one of the best hitters in the sport. Now going to a hitter-friendly ballpark in Great American Ballpark has made some swing changes that attributed to that. So it wasn't just some, nice, cute little luck. Like, with all due respect to Santiago Espinal, I don't think it was a bunch of nice, base hits and hit for 400 for a couple months. I think what Gavin Lux did is really the chance to be more withstanding. So Gavin Lux, to me, has the potential to be a 3-4 win player, has the potential to be an all-star if he gets out and is really hot. Now, where they play him, that's the biggest question. But Gavin Lux, for me, out of the new additions this offseason, is no question, in my opinion, the biggest move.
I think those are both, good moves, and certainly moves that have an opportunity to have a big impact on the Reds in 2024. I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path in my pick, though, Nick. I think a lot of people are, I'll say, overlooking this move. It was one that in the moment, quite frankly, was a little bit polarizing amongst Reds fans. The Reds giving up a bullpen arm and adding Jose Trevino is my best move of the offseason. I know you personally are not overly high on Fernando Cruz. You were on board with moving him at his height. And I think that the Reds went out and they got a really good return for Fernando Cruz, especially given the way that he ended that season. Jose Trevino brings you a ton of upside, especially defensively. But I look back on the Reds season in 2024, and the thing that stands out to me is that in games that Luke Maile started, and this is not meant to be disrespectful to Luke Maile by any means, but the truth of the matter is that Jose Trevino brings a lot to the table that Luke Maile maybe didn't. In games started by Luke Maile in 2024, the Cincinnati Reds were 13-32, 19 games below 500. And again, Luke brought a lot off the field to this team. We heard stories about his leadership in the clubhouse, his epic bus rant that got the team fired up in New York City before the Yankees series, I think it was. But at the end of the year, 55 games started. He hit 178 with a slugging percentage of 252, WRC plus of just 45. And defensively, he wasn't adding a whole lot to your team either. Framing was in the 18th percentile, pop time 38th percentile. Quite frankly, just didn't bring a lot to this club on either side of the ball. And now you bring in a guy like Jose Trevino, who quite frankly brings a lot, especially defensively. And quite frankly, a more closer to average offensive player as well. Certainly has room to improve on the offensive side of the ball, but I think brings experience to this Reds staff that will be well received and gives the Reds an opportunity to start Tyler Stevenson less than they had to in 2024 as well, which means that he's fresher. Maybe you can use him in just DH roles from time to time rather than him having to start behind the plate every game. We talked this offseason about what your plan for Tyler Stevenson should be behind the plate, how many games he should start ideally. And I think Jose Trevino gives you that opportunity to have the flexibility to really do what you want with Tyler Stevenson. And obviously getting his offensive bat into the lineup as much as possible is great, but giving him a break behind the dish and not having to worry about a liability is even better.
Yeah, I mean, look, protecting Tyler Stevenson is big because if Tyler Stevenson would have gone down last year, I mean, obviously the Reds didn't make the playoffs, but that team would have really, looked rough without him. So, I mean, you just look at the cold hard numbers. I mean, Luke Maile was worth negative 0.7 wins above replacement. Jose Trevino, who's been worth more other years, was worth 1.6. Well, yeah, that together, that's a 2.3. That's a pretty big upgrade there. So, and again, Luke Maile down the stretch was not when the Reds were, kind of still clawing at trying to get back into a playoff spot. David Bell was really trying not to use Luke Maile at all. Like he was trying to run Tyler Stevens out as much as he can. So I think that there's a potential for Trevino to even play more than maybe you would think. And Trevino only played 74 games as the Yankees kind of semi backup catcher. Austin Wells kind of eventually took it over, but he still only played in 74 games. So yeah, I mean, it has the potential to be a big swing. And then if God forbid Tyler Stevenson gets hurt for an extended period of time, which happens with catchers, doesn't have anything to do with Tyler Stevenson's durability or anything. Catchers get hurt a lot. Well, all of a sudden that Jose Trevino move really probably does become the biggest move of the offseason. It's just more of it's a good move in terms of a backup. It's a great move in terms of protection.
Well, and the thing, again, going back to it, is they made that 2+ WAR improvement in the catching position by giving up a guy who has a 1.3 career WAR in Fernando Cruz, only a 0.3 WAR. This is B WAR last year. So they did it for very little in my eyes, at least. I realized that obviously Fernando Cruz was at least at points during his career a stopper and a guy that you could rely on in high leverage situations, but towards the end struggled, and he is on the higher end from the age range. And quite frankly, they were able to go out and add other bullpen arms that I think can come in and replace what you got from Fernando Cruz. So I like the move. I think that it matters. And for me personally, ultimately, I think the combination of the player that you got with Trevino and the price that you paid certainly for me adds up to be the best move of the offseason and has the opportunity to really be kind of one of those moves that we look back at the end of 2025 as, wow, sure glad that they made that move. And quite frankly, Nick, I hope we look back at all the moves that the Reds made in 2025 offseason and say, wow, Nick Krall really cooked last offseason. I hope he does it again. cooked. But we shall see. Pitchers and catchers report in just under a week by the time you likely are listening to this. February 10th is right around the corner. So we'll see, and we'll start to get our first reports of Cincinnati Reds baseball coming up soon. As always, Nick and I will be bringing you all the latest content around Cincinnati Reds moves, updates, news, along with live shows throughout the season after every single game. Be sure to follow us right here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and across all social media platforms. For Nick Kirby, I'm Craig Sandlin. Thanks, everybody. Go Reds.
We also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and an anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay.